Good evening, sir.
Good evening. Take your seat. Diksha Jain.
Yes, sir.
Give a brief description about yourself.
So, my name is Diksha Jain. I am from Uttar Pradesh, and I have done my graduation and post graduation in English literature. And thereafter, for the past 2 years, I've been preparing and giving the UPSC exam.
Your father is also a civil servant.
Yes, sir.
So, which cadre he is working?
So, Uttar Pradesh.
He's in UP cadre.
Yes, sir.
Okay. And you have studied at various places. How do you explain this? Madurai to Mumbai to UP?
So, I was born in Madurai because my maternal grandparents used to live there. So, my father, since he's in UP, I have completed my schooling in Uttar Pradesh entirely. And so thereafter, I came to Delhi. It is that my father has recently taken a deputation to NCB and he's posted in Mumbai, which is why my current address is in Mumbai.
Okay. So, your father is an integral part of Indian bureaucracy. So, you must have seen the working of Indian bureaucracy from very close quarters. What is ailing Indian bureaucracy?
So, can I take a moment? So, the foremost thing is that Indian bureaucracy is inaccessible to the people, and it has high levels of corruption also. There is lack of transparency. There is red tapeism, which are, I think, the basic things that are ailing Indian bureaucracy.
So, there is an element of corruption, there is an element of nepotism, and so many other issues. And still, you want to join the same bureaucracy, which is so rotten?
So I wouldn't say that the bureaucracy is rotten. So these are some problems that the Indian bureaucracy faces, but it has managed to work in the public welfare for a very long time, and India has also achieved a lot in this period. And also, sir, bureaucracy is also transforming. It is becoming more transparent, more accountable, and bureaucrats are now also acting as grassroots innovators. So I see it as a land of opportunities.
But there is a perception that bureaucracy, all said and done, continues to be inflexible and rigid.
So, from what I have gauged, so people are now understanding that bureaucracy is becoming more flexible and more accessible to people.
Suppose you are given an opportunity to serve as a civil servant and you are posted in a district which is steeped in corruption. So what specific measures you will be taking to eradicate corruption, if not eradicate, at least to lessen corruption?
So, firstly, I will make it very clear at the outset that I will not, since if I am the administrator of the district, that corruption is not something that I will tolerate, and I will also lead by example in this respect. Apart from this, sir, I will motivate people to not be corrupt. I will bring transparency and accountability so that there are less loopholes which can be exploited by people to be corrupt.
How will you use digital platform to reduce corruption in different areas of public distribution?
So I will digitalize. I would work on digitalizing the records of the beneficiaries and the people who are working in that department, so that every step of the process, whenever the goods change hands or wherever the money is received, all these things become transparent and there is no scope for discretion in the process.
Okay. Suppose you are given a task as a district collector to be completed in a specified time frame, and the job has to be done. It is so important for the district or for the state, and you are left with a set of people who are, number one, corrupt but honest, number two, honest but incompetent, and third is incompetent and dishonest. Whom will you select and why?
So I will select the honest people, even though they may be incompetent. So if I am given a choice, I would like the competent people to do the work and the honest people to monitor their moves so that they can reduce.
You don't have a choice. You have to select one category because the job has to be performed. If you select a person who is honest otherwise, but incompetent, not capable of delivering the project, still you will go for him or such people.
Yes, sir, I will.
Then how the project will get completed? You will get a bad name, bad ACR, bad everything bad. How will you deal with that kind of a situation?
So, if I can try to answer this again. So, since there is such a short deadline that I have to meet, I will select the competent people, even if they have an image of being dishonest. But what I will do is that I will monitor the work very closely, and I will try to make a framework and procedure which is transparent and accountable, so that the scope for discretion is minimized or reduced to absolute zero.
Diksha, what do you know about Madurai?
So Madurai is one of the ancient cities of India. It is a temple town built around the Meenakshi Amman temple. So it is also an upcoming industrial area.
Have you heard about Sangam?
Yes, sir. So Madurai was the seat of Sangam literature. It is said that all the 3 Sangam assemblies happened in Madurai. And because of that, sir, it is famous for literature and art as well.
Can you take names of some of the important texts?
So the Sangam epics are Manimekalai, Silappadigaram, Saivaka Chintamani. So there is Tirukkurul by Thiruvalluvar, and so these are what I can do.
There is also a grammar, Tamil grammar.
Yes, sir.
That's quite important.
Yes, sir.
Because whatever you have said, that all of them belong to third Sangam, and one surviving text that is from second Sangam, that is the grammar, Tamil grammar. Is it Tolkappiyam?
Yes, sir. Tolkappiyar by Tolkappiyam.
Tolkappiyar by Tolkappiyar, Tolkappiyam by Tolkappiyar. Okay, and no problem. And then you also belong to another state which is also famous for Sangam.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, tell me.
So Uttar Pradesh, and it has Prayag, Allahabad, where there is a Sangam of Ganga Yamuna, and it is believed the mythological Saraswati is also part of the Sangam.
Okay. Now tell me one thing, like you have postgraduated from Miranda House.
Yes, sir.
With first class in both BA and MA.
Yes, sir.
That is in Delhi University. So, having first class at both the stages, in my opinion, Delhi University is running short of good teachers, particularly in English. Why don't you join Delhi University?
So, from my personal experience, I have had some very wonderful teachers. And yes, sir, there is also a need for good teachers in the department. So, personally, I was more interested in public service, and I wanted to be more directly involved with the welfare measures and the government. So that is why I wanted to come to the public services and not pursue higher studies in English.
Generally, those who are interested in civil services, they opt for history, political science, not the English language. So then why did you opt for English language or in English literature?
So, 2 reasons. So firstly, because I had a background in the subject, so it was easier for me to complete the course in time. And so secondly, it was, I really enjoy literature. So for me to study, it was no effort at all. So after doing 3-4 days of general studies, it would be a good break for me. So I enjoyed the process of learning it.
But you must have stayed in the hostel?
Yes, sir.
Almost 5 years?
Yes, sir. I stayed in a PG, and I didn't stay in the government hostel, but I stayed in the hostel outside.
Can you tell me about 5 problems being faced by girl students in Delhi University?
Sir, can I take a minute?
Yes, certainly.
They have already taken 1 minute.
Not able to recollect.
No, sir. Actually, I was trying to find 5 points.
You go ahead. Even 2 or 3 will be sufficient.
Firstly, security and safety is one aspect because Delhi has high crime rates against women. Secondly, many girls and women have been talking about extending the curfew timings because at times in some colleges they're very restrictive at 7 p.m. So they feel that it inhibits their growth. So apart from that,
and what about the strikes by the teachers? It also hampers the study.
So in the colleges, in my personal experience, even though the strikes were there, our studies were never hampered because they were never held during our timings. But yes, it does. But the teachers are very considerate. They usually don't do it during the class time.
Diksha.
Yes, sir.
Diksha, you studied literature, and the students of literature keep very close eye on stories. And I see a very interesting story in your DEF. Your father is a senior IPS officer, and your mother is an insurance agent, advisor. Insurance advisors are the ones who go door to door, and doors are slammed on their faces. A senior IPS officer's wife going door to door and doors being slammed on her faces is going to be really interesting story. Can you share up to one or two stories of such nature?
So other stories of such this.
Stories your mother must have shared with you that she was visiting for a insurance sale and the way people reacted, the way people acted, that kind of story.
So the first thing that was inspiring to me was also that so there is an exam that we have to clear to become an insurance agent, and my mother cleared it at the age of 48. So it was after leaving her studies and being a housewife for many years. So as a family, it was a big step for her because she was finding herself. And so secondly, yes, sir, there have been instances where people don't slam doors on the faces, but they very politely decline also. But sir, I think that is also part of the growth that she has learned, and that she has learned through experience how to interact with different kinds of people.
But how do other people react? A senior IPS officer's wife taking a brochure and trying to sell insurance products?
So it is not exactly like that because so as an agent, she just has to tell people that she can provide these services. The real going to people and educating them about insurance and all these things are done by people who work under her. So she doesn't have to actually do that.
Okay. Diksha, you're from Uttar Pradesh. Recently, names were changed in Uttar Pradesh. Allahabad was changed to Prayagraj. So happened with the Ayodhya. What is your take on it? Should history be done away like this, or you believe that it was okay to change names?
So names have been changed otherwise in other states also. For example, so Mumbai was changed. So sir, if there is a people's demand, because ultimately, so we are a democracy, so then sir, names can be changed. At the same time, sir, if there is a trend of changing names very frequently and of many places, then it also causes a lot of economic losses because a lot of nameplates have to be changed and even markers on the road have to be changed. So I think caution and we should really try to understand whether people...
That's a too general answer. What was the specific case in Allahabad? Was it a huge demand for it, you think there wasn't huge demand, but it was because a certain section of our history need to be rewritten in the eyes of the government?
So on road there were no protests or there was no demand for the change of name, but sir, the government also represents the people. And so they wanted to change the name to Prayagraj because they felt that that Allahabad has a certain historical connotation, but Prayagraj also has historical connotation. So they felt that needed to be highlighted.
So if the government tomorrow decide to change the name of Miranda House to say some Lakshmi Bai College, you'll be happy with this because the government is doing it, and obviously Miranda House is very colonial, carries very colonial connotation. Will you be happy?
So personally, I will not be happy because I have a certain emotional attachment with the
And
name
Allahabad
and
people
the
do
college.
not have their emotions.
Sir, they do have their emotions, but sir, the government, at the same time, the government is empowered to do it because the
So
people
will
have
be in the
elected.
case of Miranda House.
Yes, sir. If they change the name, it'll be all. I mean, I won't have any problem with that. But personally, I'll feel a sentimental. I'll feel sentimentally a little bad.
Okay. You must be keeping a close watch on the economic front, I guess. Recently, there was doubts were raised on the employment status in the country. What is the employment rate? NSSO data was rubbished by the government itself. NSSO was the government, is a government organization. And Indian Prime Minister had to cite the number of auto sales, auto rickshaws sale, to cite that employment condition isn't within control. Do you believe that something is really wrong with our data collection in the country and the planning, so that even the Prime Minister has to cite such a raw data to suggest what is the status of employment?
Sir, the NSSO data that we are talking about, sir, what is in the papers is currently supposed to have been leaked because officially the government has not given out that data. And the government stand is that they have to collect data and analyze it for another quarter before they can release the whole data. So one is not sure whether this data is accurate or not. Perhaps that is why the Prime Minister had to had to refer to other data. And so, secondly, a problem in the unemployment region for India is that we don't have accurate data, and our last unemployment survey was also done as far back as I think 2011. So, sir, official data is very important, but it has not yet been released. And but otherwise, sir, Indian institutions have a very good reputation of releasing accurate and efficient data.
Diksha, single. You're single. Yes. You're still unmarried.
Yes.
Here's your Valentine. Propose.
So, if we can have, I'm talking to the glass, certainly.
I'm sure you're talking to him.
So, if we can have fun together for the rest of our lives, and I think then we should hang out more.
Diksha, you have studied from Nalanda?
No, ma'am. I worked in Nalanda as an intern for 2 months.
As an intern, you have worked there. What are the other universities of Bihar which are ancient in nature and they have been famous?
Ma'am, this Vikramshila University. It was in Bihar, but on border with Bengal. It is also famous for Buddhism.
And another?
Ma'am, I can't recall right now.
What do you think? Like, China has grown on the basis of SEZ policy, while the same policy has failed in India. Do we need to reform our SEZ policy?
Ma'am, to some extent we do. There have been successes because it has managed to promote investment. In UP also there is an SEZ in Lucknow, and Lucknow has been growing in that region. But the problem in India, ma'am, is that we have many kind of zones. We have the coastal zone, we have the special economic zone, we have the there is manufacturing zone also. So, ma'am, it is a bit there is no holistic approach here. So, ma'am, we can rationalize and make them into one holistic policy that can help.
Okay, you are a Jain.
Yes,
ma'am. Tell me, is Jain a gender partial religion on the concept of nirvana?
Ma'am, there is a difference between two sects on this respect. The Shwetambar Jains believe that women can also attain nirvana, while the Digambars believe that women cannot attain. But their belief is that then the woman has to be reborn as a man and then they can attain nirvana.
So, what does it say about gender neutrality of that religion?
Ma'am, I would say that every religion has evolved historically, and every religion has had such issues or such beliefs. So, ma'am, this is also a case like that.
So, does it need any reform, or it's okay because that has been set, so it should be continuing?
Ma'am, I believe that there needs to be reform.
Okay. What is Anekantvad theory of Jainism?
Ma'am, Anekantvad means non-absolutism. It basically means that a reality is very complex and there can be different perspectives and different representations of that reality.
How can you use it in your daily life?
Ma'am, if we believe in Anekantvad, then it does promote a spirit of tolerance and acceptance. Then we are more willing to accept differences, different cultures, different socio-economic backgrounds. So it leads to a more harmonious society.
Recently, only Jains have been declared a minority. Which one is the largest minority in India, population-wise?
Ma'am, Islam.
And least populated minority is?
Ma'am, Jainism, I believe. I'm not sure about this.
Okay. There was a scheme like in Parsis, Geo Parsi. Does Jains also need some such kind of a scheme to raise their population?
No, ma'am. Parsis have been facing this problem because their birth rate has been falling drastically, but there is no such problem in Jainism.
Okay. Let's take a situation. You are SP of a district, you have got selected, and you crack down on a human trafficking racket, and there you find that numerous girls were being trafficked to Saudi Arabia. But as you got hold of the girls, you realized that girls were willing themselves to go there to work as maids because the money there was quite good, and they have paid their life saving to a middleman to take them there. Now you are in a fix whether to leave those girls so that they can pursue their livelihood by going to other country, or what will you do?
Ma'am, I believe that consent which is ill-informed is no consent at all. So, ma'am, here there seems to be a case that the girls don't know the kind of cases that have happened in Saudi Arabia regarding slavery, bonded labor, which many women have been reduced to, especially from countries like India. So, ma'am, first thing that I will do is I will educate them about and tell them the whole scenario that see that all these things have happened. These are the other aspects which you might not have considered earlier, and I will try to convince them that so that they can make a more informed decision, and I'm sure they will also come to realize that the situation is not in their overall favor. Secondly, ma'am, the problem is economical, since as has been said that they've paid all their money to the middlemen. So, ma'am, my next work would be to try to get these middlemen and get them up through law and make them pay back and give some rehabilitation through the girls so that they don't feel economically obliged to continue on this path.
Yet they want to go to the other country illegally, and they want to pursue their own livelihood. They are very confident that they will be safe there.
Ma'am, if it really comes to that, then since law doesn't allow it, so I will have to put my foot down and I will not allow them to go.
Okay, thank you, Diksha.
Okay, Diksha, where do you jog?
Sir, in the park.
Where, in Delhi?
Yes, sir.
At what time do you go for jogging?
Sir, between 7 to 7:30 a.m. in the morning.
Don't you think that Delhi climate is not good for going out in such a bad air quality?
So, yes, so that is, air pollution is a problem, but sir, I use a mask and I go because I have to balance between physical fitness also.
Okay, if you have to do one thing to improve the air quality of the Delhi, just one thing, what would you suggest?
So, I would go for transforming the public transport so that, and awareness drive so that people go more and more towards public transport, because more than 40% of Delhi's pollution is contributed by transport.
And which public transport you would prefer? Do you think that Delhi public transport system is, good enough to support all the commuters?
So it is good with respect to other cities because the Delhi metro is quite well expanded and good. But sir, even then, a lot more needs to be done. There are not enough buses, and so metro has also been, it is running at full capacity, but there need to be more lines, and last mile connectivity is an issue, sir.
Okay, I was listening to your conversation with other honorable member, and you had a very radical views over eradicating corruption and other thing by digitization of the things. So how digital you are? I mean, have you digitized some aspect of your life?
So I write short stories and poetry, and I have put them up on a blog. So I would say I've digitized that aspect of mine. It's my hobby.
What is digital locker?
Digital locker. So it is a facility where we can store our certificates and digitally, so that they are always accessible to us, and we don't have the risk of losing them.
Are you using it?
No, sir, I am not using it.
What is your take on surrogacy in India? Should it be allowed or not?
So I think that it should not be allowed.
Any type of surrogacy?
No, sir. Altruistic surrogacy should be allowed. Commercial surrogacy should not be allowed, especially because it is very difficult to regulate it, and it has led to the exploitation of a lot of Indian women.
In altruistic surrogacy, basically we convince a family member, isn't it?
Yes, sir.
So there can also be exploitation that you convince.
Yes, sir. Certainly, sir. There can be. So even in altruistic surrogacy, so I feel that we should have certain checks and balances to see that it is truly altruistic, because many times family members and especially women can also be coerced. So there needs to be some mechanism for that as well.
Okay. Why climate change is considered as biggest environmental threat?
So because it is something that is affecting the weather and climate everywhere. It is leading to more disasters than ever before, more cyclonic storms, more volcanoes also. I mean, there are many disasters associated with it. And so it is affecting the day-to-day life of all human beings across the world. So it is considered to be the biggest threat in the world today.
Polar vortex is telling another story. I mean, the temperature is going down. Climate change, which is basically initiated by the global warming, and temperature is going down. So, I mean, isn't a controversy in that? Contradictory?
So it is not contradictory, because sir, the reason why the polar vortex collapsed is that there was warming at the stratospheric level, which is related to climate change. So climate change is leading to extremes of temperatures, both on the lower side as well as the higher side.
Okay. So,
Diksha, we are in 21st century. You are a young girl and a true representative of 21st century, the emerging India, the free India. You have the freedom of exercising your choice to lead your personal life as per your choice. Given this background, what is your personal take on the marriage of institution or live-in relationship? Which one will you prefer and why?
So I would prefer marriage. I am not against live-in relationships, and it is also, many people experiment with it before marrying as well. But sir, I will prefer marriage because it becomes an institution which has many other ramifications in real life, because it gives you more support. You become more involved with the families of the two families become more involved with each other. So I feel that it acts as a stronger support system than a live-in relationship. But so it is again personal choice.
Yes,
but I would prefer
imagine
marriage.
somebody in your family who is very close to you. If he or she wants to go for, say, gay marriage or a lesbian marriage, will you support that?
Yes, I will.
Support that. You will have no issues.
No, sir.
Okay, thank you, Diksha. Your interview is over. You may go now. So, how was it?
I had fun.
You had fun.
Yes.
Good. We also had fun.
Students from Miranda generally have fun.
Fun apart, I mean, how do you rate your performance?
I would a 6.5 out of 10. I mean, I was good, but there were some places where I could have done better.
Your interview went very well. And your rating is not far from the truth. It may be upgraded to 7.5 also. So it was a good interview by and large. We kept the board members engaged. So you are a young, smart and enthusiastic girl. So and the honesty of purpose is there in your answers, and you have patience also to listen to the questions first, and then think a while and then respond. So by and large, you kept your head on your shoulder, so it was good. When is your interview?
So 15th March.
15th March, a lot of time is there. So we didn't ask you questions on English literature.
Yes, sir.
You should expect, because it's such a short time, it's very difficult to cover everything.
Yes,
but you should expect questions on English literature also. You write poetry, we didn't ask you questions on blogs and all that.
Yes, sir.
So those questions you should expect, other than what we have discussed here.
Yes, sir.
And then your long pause at times causes problem.
Yes, sir.
So you are very much within your rights to ask for a time, but it should be a pause. It should not be a long thinking.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so that you should be careful. You should not keep board members waiting for your response.
Yes.
So that is the one thing which you noticed, that it was long. You are a young girl, so certain things, it was honest answer, like on the issue of corruption, on the issue of naming and all that. So by and large it was okay. I mean, this is what is expected of a young girl, because you don't have that experience of working in a...
Yes, sir.
Yeah, so that is, your ideas are quite original, quite innovative. So that way there could be a debate, why this, why that, but debate will always be there. Even if you give your best performance, it will still be debated.
Yes.
So to us it sounded very good. About your dress and all that, what are you proposing to wear that day?
So I'll be wearing a sari. It is a very light green sari with a grey border. And so
A
that's
sense of
it'll be
dressing, she can give you some tips on that.
Yes.
We'll talk.
Yes, ma'am.
It's good, because if you have a border sari, that looks more decent and elegant.
Yes, ma'am.
Also prepare something on International Women's Day, because your interview is after International Women's Day, 8th
Yes,
March. So you might expect some question over there.
Then Allahabad will definitely come. You are lucky if you don't get any questions on Allahabad, Prayagraj, Kumbh and all that.
Yes.
Yes, Kumbh is, will still be continuing. 18th March you said.
15th March. Sir.
Oh, 4th March is getting over, na? So that I don't know.
It'll be still fresh in the memory.
It's fresh in the memories, that's true. Any questions from your side?
No, sir.
That's very good. You are almost there. So you have all the good qualities of a bureaucrat, of a civil servant. Wish you all the best.
Thank you so much, sir.